Today is a special day and a special year. As America celebrates our 250th, amid the hoopla and the fireworks, we must remember a timeless truth. America is great because America is good. We are not an ethnic nation. We are not even a nation of one religion. We are a nation founded on Judeo-Christian principles and biblical truths. John Adams, our second president, declared, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." As a young man, I read the book, The Light and the Glory, by Peter Marshall and David Manuel. I recommend it if you haven't read it. The classic work on God's hand in our nation's founding. That book profoundly shaped my view of America. Marshall and Manuel chronicled how time and again God's providence guided our forebears through impossible odds, from the Pilgrim's survival at Plymouth Rock to the improbable victory of the Revolution. They showed us that this nation was not an accident of history, but part of a divine plan. They emphasized America's story, revealed that our Heavenly Father is personally involved in the affairs of His people. We must never forget that. Yet today we face great peril. A major war rages in Europe. Another one burns in the Middle East. These are not mere geopolitical clashes. They are contests of good and evil. President Trump has done a very good and strong job containing these threats. But at any moment, our nation could be tested in a much bigger way. We need clear-eyed leadership and a media landscape that tells the truth, not one that spins it. This is why NEWSMAX plays such an important role in our nation today. A recent Cato and Morning Consult poll shows that Americans, just like us, stand with us on conservative principles. They want, by 70%, strong support for things like voter IDs with photos, a balanced budget amendment, English as the official language, and protecting women's sports based on biological sex. Americans are not the radical left the coastal elites imagine. We are a center-right nation. But if you only watched big media, you would believe we're center-left, even woke. The bias is staggering. Broadcast networks give overwhelmingly negative coverage to conservatives. I have the receipts to prove it. The Media Research Center, great group, Brent Bozell, found that nearly 90% of the press reports of President Trump during the 2024 election were negative. 80% of the press reports about Kamala Harris were positive. This isn't journalism. It's not even advocacy. It's pure propaganda. NEWSMAX as a TV network is relatively new on the scene. We've been around digitally since the 1990s. But we are making a difference because we report real news and we let you decide. NEWSMAX regularly reaches over 50 million Americans across our platforms. We ranked as the fourth, and still do, as the fourth highest cable news channel in the nation. And last year, were sixth among all cable, a couple of hundred cable channels, big numbers. When you combine our cable reach with our streaming on NEWSMAX Plus, our digital and other platforms, our total audience well exceeds the audience of CNN. By the way, you can download our free NewsMax app on your smartphone or iPhone at any time and start watching us anywhere in the world. Americans clearly want straight news, not left-wing narratives. So they're turning to us in record numbers. For a long time, we had limited choices. Fox was good, but as you know, Fox is changing. It opposed Donald Trump for president in the 2016 election, in the 2020 election, and in the 2024 election. The Fox chairman stated that his goal was to make Donald Trump a non-person. For the moment, Fox has course-corrected, and that's good. But I remember when they celebrated LGBTQ plus month, Pride Month, and aired glowing reports on a 6-year-old transitioning with parents and doctors claiming that the female child knew she was actually a boy before the age of 6 and before she could even speak. We also see Fox's embrace of their climate change agendas. The Fox Weather Channel, you've heard of that, it's the sister channel of Fox News, openly said it was founded to help fight climate change. To me, climate change means China gets rich, forcing you to have electric car batteries and solar panels, all built by Chinese factories that get their electricity from coal-fired plants bellowing out carbon smoke. Also, liberals in California can be happy they're saving the planet. You can't make it up, folks. But that's not the values of families in Iowa and across America. We don't want it, and we don't need it. NewsMax will never celebrate such things. Just so you know, we oppose medical transitions for kids, even with parental consent, because it constitutes child abuse. It will never be promoted or celebrated on NewsMax. Just so you know, we reject radical climate policies that harm America and working families. Europe's economy is the warning here. 10 years ago, its share of world GDP was 24%, about the same, a little higher than America's. 10 years later, thanks to Macron and climate change policies, they're at 16%, a massive collapse. NewsMax will not be afraid in giving you facts. You need to make informed decisions for you, your family, and the country. I do want to say that there's a few issues that weigh personally on me. I am deeply concerned about the massive concentration of power in this country. Our recent NewsMax cover story looks at the rise of oligarchy, where a tiny number of billionaires and corporations are controlling vast swaths of our economy and culture. The 5 biggest big tech companies in America, we call them big tech, if you combine their market capitalizations, you can look them up on the stock market today, if you combine them, they would be equal in GDP to the 3rd richest nation on earth, just those 5 companies. United States, China, big tech. And from big tech flows a secondary tier of trillionaires and billionaires and powerful major corporations. Today, the top percent holds the top 10% of the wealthiest in the nation controls 60% of the nation's wealth. The bottom 50% of America has almost no wealth. 50% of the country has almost no wealth. I don't know if that's the definition of third world, but it's getting close. Now, the left's answer to this is more taxes, more government control, more socialism. My answer is going back to our roots, the free enterprise system, competition, less crony capitalism, and less insider games that make a handful of people and companies super rich. I see the dangers as the owner of a company that started 28 years ago with a $25,000 investment. NEWSMAX is today a billion-dollar corporation trading on the New York Stock Exchange. But no one gave us a government grant or rigged regulations to help us or to hurt our competitors, although it's done every day in Washington. We built NEWSMAX through hard work and the belief in our mission from people like you. We don't forget that, by the way. But the big media companies are all pushing for more massive consolidation and more control. Right now, the FCC under Brendan Carr is planning to lift the TV ownership caps, potentially reducing major TV license holders from about 7 companies in this country to just 2. So imagine for a second ABC or NBC owning all the local stations here in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, other cities. That would not serve your values or your candidates. So just so you know, these TV caps were started at the FCC under President Reagan because he intuitively understood that if ABC, CBS, and NBC owned and operated every local station, they would control all the local news you get. So he put a cap that those big stations and networks in New York couldn't own stations reaching more than 25% of America. And the rest of their stations had to be affiliates, which were owned by someone else, with the local news programming controlled by someone else. Over time, Congress, there was bipartisan support. Even the Democrats said, that's a pretty good idea. We shouldn't have 3 major companies controlling all the news in America. So over time, the cap was lifted to 39% one network could reach across America. But today, Brendan Carr wants to have them or give them unlimited ownership. That's not promoting competition. NEWSMAX opposes lifting these caps, as does CPAC, as does the National Religious Broadcasters, the Zionist Organization of America, and many other conservative groups. I want you to know, when they consolidate, the first victim are going to be the local religious broadcasters. And that's why Troy Miller and the NRB is coming out so strongly against this, because your voice, local voices, do matter. Another grave concern for me is the growing anti-Semitism in America. It dominates and controls and animates the Democratic Party today. It is growing in the Republican Party. It is a cancer in the Republican Party. People like J.D. Vance must stand up and condemn the anti-Semitism of people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. The vice president needs to stop coddling them and placating them. He also needs to start criticizing the Islamic radicals as much as he criticizes Israel. Our lone Democratic ally in the Mideast. I believe we must stand with Israel against real enemies like Iran and Islamic radicals. Finally, I believe the Republican Party must champion human life. It is the most basic value. The Republican Party first became a great party led by Abraham Lincoln because it stood for life and against slavery. President Reagan and past leaders continued a similar approach and embraced a national human life amendment. Recently, the Republican Party has actually shifted to a states' rights approach to oppose abortion with no clear national stand. But states can decide, and many states do, to support abortion, and even the hideous, horrible partial birth abortion. That's bad. Another Republican mistake is the idea that abortion should be banned maybe after 12 or 16 weeks. But that means 90% of abortions are legal. Such a policy is terrible for our country, and it's really bad for the unborn. The Declaration of Independence speaks of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is important for us to remember life comes first. We must always stand for it. We must always defend it. Friends, if America remains good, rooted in faith, in family, and in freedom, we will always be a great nation. So I say to you today, keep the faith and keep America great. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is NEWSMAX. It's real news for real people.